Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. It is Sunday, March 2nd, 2025. I did not have any intention on doing a message today at all, even this weekend. But what started off as like a nudge suddenly became an urge very quickly. And not only an urge to do any type of reading, but these cards, my Game of Thrones cards particularly, were like, I don't know, like calling me to the table. So much so that when I was doing my prayer, usually I take my time, I just feel the energy, kind of premeditate. But I just I had been overcome with this, like, I don't know, like this, I would say it's anxiety because of how it felt in my body, but I don't feel anxious, like, like I got to do this or else. It was more just like an overwhelming excitement. I don't know. I don't know. It's really something I feel like I've never felt before in terms of doing a message or a reading or even any particular card. So I'm just being obedient to my spirit, because perhaps this is the only way to kind of ease that intensity, whatever it may be. So, more or less it's my pleasure, quite honestly, to do so, but it wasn't my intention. So either way, here we are, here you are. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I didn't get a chance to say happy birthday to Pisces because we are been in Pisces season. So I apologize. Happy birthday, Pisces. I hope you're enjoying your birthday month in this really powerful season that we are in, courtesy of you. We appreciate you so much, more than what I even know, more than I can cosmically articulate. But in the essence of dreams coming true and giving us all that channeled energy to believe for the seemingly impossible, or sometimes at least the unbelievable or unimaginable. We couldn't live this life without you. It would be quite bland, to say the least. So anyway, let's see what we got here. Wow, Seven of Swords. And what's that peeking out? The Fool. We got Tyrion here. And that's Samuel. The Seven of Swords. That's when he was taking the sword that was supposed to be passed down to him as the eldest child. When he visited his family, he wasn't really welcomed warmly because he was kind of the black sheep, the outcast of his bloodline, because he didn't really fit the typical mold of what a manly man should be. So his father banished him off to the Night's Watch, where he actually became more than the man, actually almost a better man than his father could be in more ways than one. But the Seven of Swords here is when he was, I feel like it was like he was taking back his birthright. Like it was withheld from his father through the symbolism of the sword that he's taken, which was like the only what was that, Valerian steel sword that was in their family. And on the last message I said, well, if you know, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you know this, but if not, like Valerian steel was a coveted metal at that time that was of the ancient world. There were only like a few of the weapons still available because the material itself was no longer available. And it was not only ancient, but it was extremely durable and like just unmatched by any materials that were more modern for that time. So it was really honorable, especially as a warrior. And his dad was like a high general, and in a legacy of, warriors and fighters, and his brothers as well, who kind of fit the mold more. So the dad kind of favored him more so. But it was really an honor, like almost a family jewel, so to speak, to have a weapon such as that, to have a sword like that in your possession. And it was kind of like I said, like a birthright, like an honor to pass it down to your sons, like a symbol of uh, of of what's another word than honor? Like, I don't know, like just like this it was like a symbol of honor, honestly. It was a privilege to pass that down. But anyway, it was withheld from old Sam. But when he went to visit his parents unannounced, and was still, he thought maybe if he, after time had passed, maybe he could come back and receive a warmer welcome. But it was like his father was even more disappointed in him than when he left. And what he did is he took the sword. He took the sword, and went off into the sunset with his then girlfriend and her child, and moved on with his life pretty much, and kind of left. It's like he was coming home for validation, and of course didn't receive what he was looking for. But the sword, it's almost like him taking the sword, like I said, was like him retrieving his birthright in a way that was almost unlawfully, or wrongfully at least, withheld, definitely prejudiciously withheld. So although the Seven of Swords is usually more of like a shady card where you're doing something deceptive, it was deceptive, because if his father would have caught him, he might have cut his head off himself. But it was also for a really good cause, and the sword ended up being extremely valuable in the war to come against the what you call the army of the dead. I think he gave it to Joro, who didn't have a sword. He actually was another outcast of his father as well, and he missed out on the passing down of the Valerian sword. It was passed down to Jon Snow instead, through the commander of the Night's Watch at the time when he was alive. And coincidentally, with the Fool card here, Tyrion was also a black sheep of his family. So we're talking about something here about black sheeps rising from rising from condemnation, rising above and beyond the criticisms of convention, especially in terms of family, because Tyrion here in the Fool card, he was a descendant of one of the most powerful families, the Lannisters, in the king, in all the seven kingdoms. And I say powerful because it was projected that they were the most wealthy, and at a time they were, because there was like gold. Their land used to be really gold rich. But after a time, it was exposed later on that they actually didn't have as much wealth as they projected to, because they weren't mining gold anymore. Their power was pretty much kind of borrowed on credit, because they had established such a prominent relationship with the Iron Bank, which was like the World Bank of that series, that they, and they had that his father was like a high general. So he had made the Iron Bank really rich, and borrowing for wars, sounds familiar, doesn't it? How wealthy the country gets from war. But really, in their own accounts, they really weren't as wealthy as they projected to be. They just had a lot of power and influence to throw around. And both of these two, in their own right, were like saviors of their bloodline. You know, his father and brother ended up getting burned to death for being obstinate to change. Ultimately, they they picked the wrong side, you know, to stand with in the time of war, and they were eliminated, and he was the last of his bloodline to survive. So not only was it was kind of poetic that he took the sword, you know, from the mantle. It was almost like justified, you know, by the turn of events. And then the Fool card with Tyrion, he ended up, you know, he was definitely the outcast of his bloodline. The only one that really loved him was his brother Jaime, who he maintained a bond with. But his sister hated him, Cersei, who ended up becoming the queen. His father despised him and only really looked at him as like an obligation to keep around because he carried the family name. And he was just kind of like in the way in terms of his people. But in the end, he kind of expressed the most brilliance, you know, and he was clever and all of that good stuff, but it was actually his brilliance to identify the right side, to like the righteous side, I should say, even more so, to align with when he became like advisor to Daenerys, that again superseded the condemnation that he kind of was like labeled with from birth, you know. So it's something to be said here about kind of like shaking it up, you know, maybe not in the ways that you may have, you know, your strange, well, is it strange? Like peculiar. Peculiar is the word. And the ways in which maybe your peculiar ways of being and choices that you've made that have kind of gone against the status quo, that have kind of been obstinate to family tradition or the family way, or even if it's not family, just like the conventions of society or culture, or your demographic, you know, your age group, whatever it is. Like there's a way in which, you know, even with the Seven of Swords, you've kind of like trumped what was to be expected of you, you know, or even it was, what did I just hear? Like the shoot, what is it? What did I just hear? It's like there wasn't much expected of you, but what is that phrase that I'm looking for? Like when people, pretty much when they're like, you're, damn, I can't think of it, but like pretty much when there's a certain limitation that you are captivated by according to how others perceive you, and you're really not expected to evolve or advance beyond it. You know, it's like this is all that they're going to be, and you know, maybe even less, you know, and that's just what it is, and it can't be no more. But this is speaking to that interesting choice or peculiar choice or path of life actually being exactly the thing that more or less has advanced your existence, that has elevated you beyond, not just beyond the limitations of those that, you know, were observing you, but also perhaps of the ones that you may have subscribed to yourself or made agreements with, you know, because imagine being told that you're worthless for most of your life. I mean, both of their dads were really, really mean to them. And imagine being told to your face and made to feel in every way how insignificant you are, and how much of a nuisance and a burden that you are, even an embarrassment, a shame to the family in some ways. And you ultimately begin to absorb that. What else can really contradict that when it's coming from people that you love and respect the most? And maybe some that are listening in have heard some of those things or felt some of those ways subconsciously, just in the indifference that you felt to the way of life or tradition that you were, you felt contained by at times, or felt a deference to. And it was probably a hard transition to stand alone or stand out against that tradition or convention, especially against especially in light of that feeling of being further outcasted, or further disassociated, misunderstood, or disconnected, in some ways, like banished. For real, like banished, at least emotionally, because sometimes it could happen where it's not necessarily like you were sent off to war, or to a remote place, or in Tyrion's case, in the Fool card, he was almost executed for a crime that his dad knew he didn't commit, but it was like good riddance type of energy. In many cases, it may not be so severe in a physical sense, because we're talking about medieval times here. But like I said, it could be emotionally, just never feeling like your point of view is appreciated or understood, or always feeling like you have to kind of make concession, or you have to make excuses, or what's the right word? Not excuses, but give explanation, extra explanation for who you are and why you do what you do, or why you believe what you believe, especially if it's contrary to what everybody else does, the family way or tradition as it stands. But like I said, these two were both powerful, powerful figures in the, Queen of Coins. Yes, very valuable. And she was a feisty one, that Queen of Coins, the High Garden Queen, who was very revolutionary for her time. Like, she seemed to be the only one of that was seasoned, that kind of got it. Like, she lived long enough to kind of understand the old world, but also could get with the nuance as well. Like, she was a dope character. But anyway, they both ended up being more or less like the chosen ones, of their bloodlines, in a strange and peculiar ways. They were the surviving descendants, the saving grace of their houses. And they didn't do it by following tradition and convention. It was quite the opposite. If they had, they probably might have been the demise and the end of their bloodlines. But it's almost like what you have taken a stand or a step to do in a peculiar direction has actually perhaps, or you may see it amounts to being the saving grace of an entire legacy, if you had done it the way that you were expected to do, or the way you were conditioned to do. Maybe no one and nothing might survive beyond you, So let's try to go fast here. Sounds like it's a very affirming message. Maybe we needed to be affirmed today, of not only the choices that have been made, but to just kind of like bolster up that confidence for whatever this new, leg of the journey is, given we are in Pisces season and we're coming up on that official new year and the cosmic new year. And there's so much to look forward to, so much to prepare for, even right now, to look forward to. and we wanted to be in the best of spirits, not how I was feeling that energy, like not with anxiety or paranoia, but with eagerness and excitement, and even knowing how to ground that frequency in your body so that it's transmuted in your for your greatest good, for productivity's sake. Seven of Spears. Oh snap, hold up, did I say the wrong thing? Hold on now, because the Seven of Spears, what was that I picked up on? Because if this is this wands? Maybe these are wands. Spears are wands. Yeah, because I said swords. Yeah. So that was definitely swords. So the Seven of Spears is wands. So we got the Seven of Wands, which is about, again, protecting your energy, standing your ground, particularly all the hot spot words that we use for like the traditional meaning of the cards. And this is one of the Unsullied, fighting the sons of Harlow, or the sons of something like that rebel group that was ultimately trying to dethrone Daenerys when she decided to live in the Pyramid City and rule over the city that she had freed. And her fearless warriors, her first army that she acquired was the Unsullied, and they were a fearsome bunch, boy. And this is them fighting out. That's probably even Grey Worm that's fighting in one of the hallways when the rebels had, like, they were in the uprising. Suddenly it was like a trap that they had set. Yeah, it was like a trap that they had set, and it was kind of like out of nowhere. And they really lost a lot of men that day, and it was quite a treacherous battle. In the end, she still more or less came out on top, but it was a rough one. It was a rough battle. So the Seven of Spears and look at how many up against this one warrior, but it's twofold for me, because it's like saying that, yeah, you may have had a lot of opposition and a lot of resistance, known and unknown, because like I said, this was like a surprise attack. Which is why at first I was like, wait, Seven of Spears? Now that's the true energy of the Seven of Swords, that we saw with Samwell, where it's like somebody deceptively carrying out some type of attack, or in the sword energy, it could be even with words, or it could be physical. Like whatever it is, there's an intention to be deceptive and destructive. But the Seven of Wands here is like, even with that intention, and the odds have been quite great against you, somehow he's still coming out on top, head and shoulders above the rest. And they did, in that scene, like, it was ridiculous. There was a ridiculous outnumber of rebels against the Unsullied, and against was it Jorah? No, it wasn't Jorah. It was the other warrior that used to be the general of the King's Guard back in King's Landing. But Cersei kindly and ruthlessly relieved him of his duty because he couldn't be controlled. So he came and joined Daenerys's army pretty much as her King's Guard, or Queen's Guard, I should say. But anyway, it all throughout the movie, you heard about how much of a dynamic, like a famous fighter he was, but you never saw it up until this scene. And he was old at that point. And when I say he slayed, I think he might have died though. He did at the end of that, but he slayed every single enemy that was, that stepped up to him. It was like a old Bruce Lee, like a old Bruce Lee type of flick, where it's like, well, damn, all y'all against this one man, and yet he still wins. You know what I mean? Wins the battle. It was like that, but he did fall, and Grey Worm, who was the general of the Unsullied, He was hurt, but he actually did survive. So there it is. Like, there's been a lot of hurt, of a lot of injury, perhaps to your character, to your ego at times, to your passions, a lot of attacks on your natural passion and like that natural zest and zeal that you have for life, and maybe even on your confidence. Yeah, definitely the confidence piece with wands, and your creativity for sure. Some that you've seen, some attacks that have come straight at you and you couldn't miss, and some of them that have been sneak attacks. Some of them that went under the radar, that you never knew who was throwing the rocks, or who was shooting the arrows, or the spear, the daggers, or whatever. But ultimately, no matter what the challenge, no matter who or what the enemy, the opposition, there's still always been some sense of victory. Yeah, look at this, the tower. Damn, what is that tower? I'm not even sure what that is exactly. Is that Dragonstone? That might be Dragonstone, where all the obsidian rocks were, where they ultimately harvested their weapons to kill the army of the dead. And if that is the case, which I feel like I should probably look it up before I go off, but just off of what I'm sensing, sometimes those tower moments, like such as the scene that I'm talking about, like some of the attacks have kind of, in many ways, been so impactful that they almost brought you back down to one, or back down to zero, to have to start all over and build again. But some of it, even with that impact, has been quite protective, in a sense, from you evolving into a place that maybe you weren't ready to inhabit. Because I'm thinking about, if this is Dragonstone, where they mined the obsidian glass, like the dragon glass, that's a very protective stone. Like, it's literally, I'm wearing it now. This is obsidian, these black beads that I'm wearing. And anytime that I go out, not that I feel like my protection is fully rooted in stones and crystals and things of that nature. I know that my protection is beyond that, but it's like the earthly projection of what I believe is a spiritual force. So, encamping my force field, encompassing, my force field. And it's almost, if anything, is just, honestly, it serves as like a physical reminder and I love them. I mean, I love my bracelets and my beads and my necklaces and my rings. Like, I love these things, but so it's beauty for me, but it's not like, I feel like if I don't have it on, I'm going to get hurt, or somebody's going to get me, or I'm vulnerable. No, I feel like, really, for me, it's just a reminder, even as I look down at the beauty of it all, also a reminder to my spiritual senses that I'm good no matter where I go, because this is what is rooted on me from the inside out. That obsidian, especially in my mental space, knowing that I'm protected beyond any, against any potential enemy or force that would have the intention to harm or endanger me. But the tower here sometimes, are those moments in our lives that bring us back to one, or bring us to a place where we kind of have to readjust, or to rebuild, reestablish ourselves in a way. And a lot of times when we look back in hindsight, it's like a readjustment for a realignment, So even the ways in which our security may have been breached in the past with poor intent, malintent, evil intent in some ways, what we can reflect upon is how it actually was either protection or progressive for our highest good. always, always. And when you have that attitude, it's the reason why the tower doesn't, once you become a little bit more seasoned and reading, the tower isn't always necessarily like destruction of the worst sort, like anything to be afraid of, because some things are meant to be dismantled, and some things even are meant to kind of be a surprise of an experience that kind of cause you to readjust in ways that you wouldn't have otherwise, because you wouldn't know to, or if you had the choice on your own based on what naturally, you would probably continue on in your complacency and your comfort, and perhaps in a direction that if it wasn't dangerous or harmful, maybe it just wasn't for your highest good, or wouldn't give the most desirable outcome. And as I've said before, the spirit knows what you truly want beyond what you say or what's on the surface of your consciousness. It's like knowing the depths of your desires and putting you in exactly the right alignment to have that, and particularly now at an accelerated pace. So again, the tower could just be a sudden change of events that, you didn't plan to move, or you didn't plan to quit your job yet, or you didn't plan for a baby, or you didn't plan to be in a serious relationship or a commitment. You didn't plan to have a windfall of abundance all of a sudden, just drop in your lap, an inheritance, as we were talking about the 2 cards in the beginning. You weren't planning to have an inheritance to manage all of a sudden, but now here you go. And with that comes along certain readjustments that also build and shape a greater aspect of your character that you wouldn't have before that, So there's something that could be about to occur that might be a surprise or a shock to the senses. But I would like to say that if this is what I think it is, and I'm not even going to look it up, if it is what I think it is, and this is the obsidian source, you're protected through it all. Like there's nothing that could transpire at this point, having experienced all that you have, that could completely knock your socks off or throw you off base to the point of no return, or no what do you call it, like reestablishment or whatever. It's probably just going to be something, most likely, that's about to be accelerated and accelerated in advancement. And there's the thought about whether or not you're truly prepared or ready for it. But the fact of the matter is that you must be. It wouldn't be so if you weren't. So here's the 8 of Swords. Yeah, again, and this is about that mentality of disempowerment. Like, am I okay? Like, the 8 of Swords, am I is there something holding me back? Is there an enemy that, with the 8 of Swords, it's almost like a surrender to defeat or to defenselessness or helplessness, but that's a far cry, and that could be on account of the surprise element of whatever it is that's about to be to cause a shift in your existence, in your reality, I should say. I don't know why I said existence. A shift in your existence, that's pretty strong. And your reality. But the 8 of Swords is like kind of like a resolve, or I would say like a over thoughtfulness about your power, your power in how much like your personal enlightenment and your knowledge and ability to govern yourself according to whatever this change may be, or whatever this change um whatever this change commands. And it could also even be like this feeling of, you know, almost this, because especially right after the tower, it could almost be this feeling of life happening to you and instead of for you, which is probably why I'm saying all that I'm saying about reflecting on the past and also seeing drastic changes, maybe sudden changes, as like taking the stance of empowerment to see things working for you, almost to find, a sense of favor in a drastic change or a drastic measure of manifestation that's materializing in a way that seems sudden or overwhelming, even in a sense. That's what that is. Overwhelm. The Eight of Swords. That's what that is. Overwhelm. Yeah. And as I learned in momentum education, we learned all types of tools, like mental tools and affirmations and things, of that nature, to advance like our personal success and productivity. And one of the things that I learned is that you choose overwhelm. So overwhelm is not a defenseless state. It's not an Eight of Swords disempowered state where there's nothing you can do. Like life is just taken over and you're completely you're a complete victim to it all. Overwhelm is a state of resolution, so if you're feeling a sense of overwhelm, even back to how I was saying I was feeling about my the heightened energy that I was feeling to get to this table right now, which was strange. It felt a little bit anxious, which is not common to my being, especially not now. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty tempered and balanced in my energy most of the time, even when I'm excited. So to feel that type of energy in my chest was kind of like, if not for the state of empowerment I that I'm grounded in personally, emotionally, and mentally, I could allow that to feel like a sense of alarm. You know what I mean? Even almost like an urgency that was demanding of me, because like I said, I had no intentions of coming to the table, but instead I transmuted it into an urgency of excitement and eagerness. Like, well, shit, I like doing this, it's fun for me anyway, so if there's something that spirit needs to say, particularly through these cards, then so be it. And maybe perhaps this is about to be a really a whirlwind of a week in terms of change for many of us. And perhaps this is a grounding that's necessary to, for more than just me, apparently, to receive it in good nature, like in a optimistic way, and almost reclaim your authority over your creativity for the thoughts that you feel, for the maybe the information that may be released or transmitted to you, whether it be in the natural state, like maybe some information is coming to you about some things, some revelations about some things, that would generally have an impression on you, something that hits close to home, or could even, like, Seven of Spears and the Seven of Swords, both of those kind of were reading almost like this obstinance, maybe even betrayal, like I was talking about in the beginning, about kind of being the black sheep or ousted out of family. Maybe you could find out something about family, like a secret or information or something undercover or something that you were unaware of up until now, or maybe perhaps you didn't have evidence for, or clarity, or closure with, that finally, Pisces is that month where things definitely come to a close and an end so that you can begin again in a fresh energy. And some stuff may not be comfortable, but again, here's the protection piece. Here is the resilience, and no matter what you may come across or encounter, you're already protected and already you've already transcended probably the worst of it anyway, just to have been affected even when you didn't know. And the Eight of Swords again is, it could even be with the Eight of Swords is like the over not it beyond the overwhelm, but even this resolve of feeling like there's no course of reaction or response that you could consider would be reasonable. You know what I mean? Like you could find out something, something could be revealed to you that kind of like maybe clears your foundation. Like I'm getting the sense, I don't know why, but I'm just getting the sense of like finding out something about family or something, some type of exposure and family or revelation, maybe even friends, but something close to you being revealed that just kind of rocks your foundation from everything that you thought, everything that you relied on or believed in. Oh, believed in. Oh. So it could be family, it could be something greater than that. It could be a lot of things. But it's contradictory, as this is like obstinance. It's contradictory to what would be a comfort zone of security. There it is. That's what it is. And it could have you in the Seven of Coins, like considering, like kind of taking inventory of everything that you have, put stock in for all of your life, and that could be on a personal level, that could be on a national level, that could be on a global level. It could be spiritual. Like, I don't know what we're talking about here. It feels big, like something that's just about to like completely, like you thought this is what you always thought was real. As I started off in the beginning talking about Pisces and how some things can just be unbelievable or, unfathomable at times. But Pisces is that energy that can bring the supernatural or even the unnatural to fruition, the kind of like bust all the myths about what you thought your reality truly was, and even the limitation on it, and kind of break you into a whole nother dimension of awareness, and of which maybe you didn't even ask for this. But like I said, you must be ready for it, or you must be what's the right word, like you may not be ready, but you must be, I don't know how to say that, like efficient or trustworthy is a thing, but that it's more so about like you being able to receive this awakening or awareness and actually put it to good use. I don't know how to say that right now. I don't know. The word is escaping me. We are officially in pre-Mercury retrograde, pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde, I think starting on the 1st. So we could slowly be struggling with my my speech. We shall see. But anyway, the Seven of Coins is really like questioning everything that you thought was real. That's what that is. Like, I believed in all of this, and it turns out that this is the only thing that truly is organic, or that you invested in all of this, and when it comes down to it, like, this is the only thing that was worthy of your investment, or that was of value, or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know. Definitely keen on that investment piece though with the Seven of Coins. But what I also always like to say with the Seven of Coins, it's always a matter of perception. So it's how you see it. You know, like, all of what I've been saying up until this point has been about perception. You know, how you see opposition and what it has done to you, or what it has afforded you, how you see sudden changes in your life or circumstances that were unplanned. And again, what the effect is a matter of your perception. How you see your current state of affairs and your position of power and authority therein. It's all about perception. How you see whatever it is that is revealed, and what you have ultimately gained from it. I mean, imagine there being an exposure of a secret in the family, or something that, you know, is exposed that you didn't know, and now it's like it completely, you know, changes. It's like finding out somebody's not your dad. You know, all this time you thought it was your dad, or finding out, you know, a family member that you loved dearly was a hidden enemy, you know, or ultimately was looking to kind of like, you know what I mean, like pretty much destroy you in some way, or hurt your character in some way, like they've been secretly talking about you, or whatever the case may be. It's like, yeah, all these years you thought you had a friend, you thought, you know, that was your daddy, or you know, whatever the case may be. But for as long as that was the case, what of it really truly hurt you? You know, the revelation of the truth, whatever that may be, might be shocking. It might be alarming. It might be unnerving in present tense. But sometimes we have the tendency as humans to go back and make that the case for everything before that time, you know? But it's like, with discernment and with empowerment of your mental fortitude, you can kind of discern and separate what, it's hard, trust me, I know this, like, discern and separate what truly was good for you as far as you knew. You know, like, for example, I have friends that I no longer associate with now. One in particular that I, you know, reverenced our relationship as like one of the absolute most precious things to me for a long time, until ultimately I realized that he was the ops the whole time. Like, and you know what I mean? It's like you could go back and look at that whole span of experience to be like, damn, none of that was really real, or question what of it was really real, and just completely denounce and discard it all. Or, as I've chosen to do, you could really appreciate the times that were good, because for what it was worth, I was always keeping it real. You know, I was always loyal and honest, and being the friend that I thought that I was getting, you know. So for me, it doesn't take anything away from the past and how great of an experience it really was to have that friendship, because it was always authentic on my side. You know, now moving forward, it's not something that could be revisited, because knowing what you know at this point changes everything moving forward, you know. But the past is the past, and it still has great value. If it wasn't for the past, you probably wouldn't have gotten to the strong sense of security by way of experience that you are now. So how could you really discard any of it, you know? And I feel like that's transmutable no matter what the circumstance. even if it's something intimate, close to home. Again, shocking. Yeah, look, 9 of Cups. And here's the Ace of Swords. Like, that's the truth. Let me put this up here so you can see. That's the Ace of Swords. That's that Valerian steel I'm talking about. Oh, that's John's sword at that. I love it. And look, oh my gosh, the 9 of Cups is Sam. This is when he came into his own as the Meister, like the wise men. Every kingdom, more or less, or every estate had a Meister who was like the wise man, the healer, like the keeper of knowledge and things. Like, he was like the learned man that ultimately would kind of be the brains of the estate. You know, if there was something that needed to be known or researched or healed, he was the man to go to. And he wasn't even on track to be that. He kind of fell into that by circumstance as he was banished from his father's house a second time. He ultimately found his way to the Citadel, where he also wasn't supposed to go. He kind of pushed his way into that space to become a Meister by training and by, the initiation of that process and the education of that process. But otherwise, he was sentenced to pretty much live out his days at Castle Black and ultimately died there. None of his father and his brother were swordsmen. Neither of them was on track to be a wise man, and that's ultimately where he found his fulfillment emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, where he couldn't be validated from where he thought it should have come from. He found that validation in the truth of his divine identity, and it was probably more or less written for him to walk that path anyway, even though still his choices would have needed to lead him in that way. If he had decided to stay home and be berated by his father, he would have never made it to the Citadel. Or if he had decided to stay at Castle Black and pretty much get laughed out, laughed to shame there because he wasn't much of a fighter, he wouldn't have ultimately found his calling, which was being an apprentice to the Meister there. So, and also what it speaks to is, like, again, Trump and tradition, because like I said, you didn't become a Meister just by going to sign up for the courses and the education. Like, you almost had to be chosen or ordained, like that almost being kind of like almost a birthright, or at least an appointment of sorts. And like I said, he was rejected from being a great swordsman like the men in his family. He wasn't doing very well in that regard at Castle Black because he was the worst fighter there when he got there, even to the bitter end. Although he did kill a White Walker and he was the first one to do it. So there is that, again, this chosen energy, like just walking in your truth. But it was the pathway that he kind of paved for himself, by refusing to be refused and to be rejected where his heart was really leading him, that really got him to where he ultimately was fulfilled. Because when he went to the Citadel, where all the Grand Meisters sat and trained and learned, at first they were ready to turn him away because it just wasn't conventional or traditional for somebody to just show up and say, hey, I want to be a Meister. But he stood his ground, pressed his way, and knew where his heart was guiding him. And so it was, and really that's all that's being commanded, not even commanded, like that's all that is required of us, in our humanity, is, as I've said in most recent readings, is to stand our ground on what our personal interests are. We have trivialized it, and what's the other word, like made it difficult, whatever that word may be. You know, like we've made it difficult, and we've made it almost too simple, you know, in the sense that it's so simple that it doesn't even seem to make sense, you know. But then we've made it so difficult that it doesn't seem attainable, you know what I mean? So it's like that balance in the middle of what just is the truth of what truly does make you happy. What is it? You know, what is it? And to stand on business, so to speak, about pursuing that thing, you know, and there being no other real satisfaction beyond that fulfillment, you know. Um, but yeah, I love that we're ending with the Ace of Swords. I'm gonna just get one more. The Two of Cups is like that, making that commitment to yourself, that vow to yourself, and also, of course, unto the divine. But when it comes back down to it, like the commitment we think we are beholden to of a divine nature is really being one with ourselves. Like it gets kicked back down to us, you know, like what is it that will make you whole? What is it that will fulfill the duality of you and integrate the two parts of your being, or maybe the multiple parts of your being, so that you're all on one accord, like one fire burning, like one flame burning through your personal passion, like your pure passion. You know, these are the vows with the Two of Cups that were spoken in marriage, you know, but this could be likened to contracts, to agreements, to to collaborations, to co-creativity, of course, procreativity, whatever it is, you know, it's about um, an organism or maybe multiple organisms becoming united. And I always, with the Two of Cups, liken that to what's first unified within self, especially following this Ace of Swords, like one truth of who you are and what you desire and what's required for your personal satisfaction and stability and self-esteem. That's what the Nine of Cups is as well. Like I often see that as like supreme self-esteem, where he couldn't be validated and vindicated through his lineage. He found it on his own. He started his own lineage and his own legacy literally from scratch, because they were long gone and he had a family of his own. And the Ace of Swords here, this is like, of course, this is Jon Snow's sword. This is the sword that I was talking about that was passed down to him from somebody else's father that disowned them. Like the commander of Castle Black disowned Joro. This is the cross pollination right here. So Joro was the son of the commander who was banished from his father. His father passed his Valyrian steel sword to Jon Snow because he saw so much promise in him. Sam, the one that I said stole his father's Valyrian sword, steel sword in the beginning, passed his sword that he couldn't barely hold up because he wasn't really a fighter, to Joro, who was also one of the most dynamic swordsmen in the series. So see how like fate happens how it's meant to happen. It doesn't happen in the convention of what society dictates, even what we perceive to be the proper course of evolution or progression for ourselves. It happens as the divine dictates it should. And that's the Ace of Swords, the truth here. And there's the Fool again. Wow, like full circle. And number one, what I didn't really say, which is definitely appropriate now, is beyond all the things that I said about Tyrion. The Fool card is a beginning of a new journey. It's the beginning. But it's the beginning of a new, I love how we begin and end with this, because his original journey started on account of rejection and condemnation and judgment and, you know, all the nasty negative words you could consider when you're not accepted by those that you love or those that you revere the most. But how it ends here with the Two of Cups is an establishment of a new covenant with yourself in this new order of identity as it's been affirmed by the divine. It's no longer teetering on the fringes of who you've always been told you should be, or who you were, or what you would only amount to, or what you were falling short of. This is now a new assertion and assumption and assertiveness of identity as you have experienced yourself to be in real time. This is like the fool's journey starting all over again, but after you've already gone through the experiences that have been exactly the identity shaping evidence that you need to now walk a new experience in a confidence that you didn't have before. So although it's a new way, it's a new road, it's a new experience, it may even be unfamiliar, what is also new is a supreme confidence and curiosity that kind of puts you in like a wise position here, because now you know just how resilient you are, you know how smart you are, how clever you are, how powerful you are, you know how much you can take, you know your limits, and you most importantly know the lack of limitations that you must, you must have the privilege of to have come through so much and still, be alive to see a regeneration, and onto a whole new path. Something about that, about reestablishing a covenant with yourself with new confidence based on what has been exposed and what has been experienced of yourself. You're not who you used to be. Perhaps you never were what you were projected to be. What I keep wanting to find that word, like when people don't have, damn, it's bothering me that I can't think of that. Maybe it's because it's something that needs to just be released from thought. But like when people don't expect much of you, when they have low expectations, or their standards of your success are minimal, that ideal is been proven wrong multiple times over at this point, and doesn't matter if it's been proven to the naysayers or the ops. All that matters is that you've seen the best of who you are, and what you're capable of, and what you truly have to offer, and what you're willing to offer, and it's time to bet on that brilliance. It's time to bet on that brilliance. Put it all on black or red if that's what you fancy. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. I could go in with these cards. These readings, I know they be long because these cards are so intriguing to me, and they challenge me in a different way to read from the traditional and also from the movie, which I love, but sometimes I be trying to pull back, like, girl, don't do too much on that, on not the movie, on that series, because everybody hasn't seen it. But I hope that I convey the themes well enough, because I think it's important. I can't just read this like seven of wands, the tower, the eight of swords, like it's just regular tarot. Like, to me, what's the fun in that? And the series itself is so multi-dimensional that I feel like I could literally read these cards all over again just like this and probably get a completely different message, so, but I'll spare you for now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, As always, I'll leave you with peace.